What is going on, guys? My name is Iper, and now quickly about the gameplay that you're seeing in the background, which is Conquest on Operation Firestorm. And it was actually the first time that I enjoyed playing Conquest, because normally I don't have a good time on Conquest, but I did well on this round, and I'm sure that you will enjoy the background gameplay. Now what I wanted to talk about today is an idea that I've got, and I don't have actually got the idea from myself, but I did see it on a Reddit post which was posted on Twitter by Battlefield Daily. And if you don't know who Battlefield Daily is, then if you have Twitter, make sure to follow him for all the Battlefield 4 news. Now if we quickly go back to Battlefield 3, we have two factions, the Russians and the Americans, and in that game it actually did matter a very little bit on what faction you were playing in. For example, if you were an American, you were the only one that had access to the small, and if you were Russian, you were the only one that had access to the RPG. Now if we go back to your low levels in Battlefield 3, then you did have actually weapons that were only available for the Americans and were only available for the Russians. However, if you ranked up, then you could use cross weapons in different factions, and you could use the Russian weapons as an American and vice versa. Now if we go back to Battlefield 4, we can see that they actually did something really cool, and that was adding a third faction, which is the Chinese. But in Battlefield 4, I don't feel like DICE have utilized those three factions to the max, because there could have been so much more done with them. And for example, one thing that they took away was the things that I explained earlier that were in Battlefield 3, so you can use now the RPG both as a Chinese and as an American, which for a game that strives for realism isn't really realism. And now we've come to the idea that I've had or read on Twitter on Battlefield Daily, which is an all-new game mode which does feature those three factions in one game mode and one map, which DICE could implement in a future DLC. Not on Naval Strike, because Naval Strike is right around the corner and I don't think that they're gonna change anything about it now yet, but it is an idea for another upcoming DLC. So how this game mode could work is that we've got three different teams on the map, and which are of course divided in those three factions, and then we've got one flag or MCOM or whatever in the middle and both teams fighting for them, and then we've got three flags that are both each gonna be closer to one faction than the others, so you will have to fight for the middle one whilst protecting your own flag. Now I think that such a game mode would be really interesting to see in a Battlefield game, and having three teams on one map really does change up the battlefield and how you should be playing. Because for example, we've all had those rounds where one team was just dominating the other, and you know, spawn killing was happening, and basically not everyone was having a good time. Now having three different factions and three different teams on the battlefield at the same time really does then change up the pace of the game and how it should be played, because now if there's going to be one team that is dominating, it has to deal with two other teams, and that is going to be fairly more difficult than having to deal with just one team that has the equal amount of players. So not only could this idea be implemented in a new game mode, but we can also implement it in game modes that are already existing. So for example, a team deathmatch where there are going to be three different teams, or take for example a Conquest where there are going to be three different teams, which yeah, as I said earlier, really are going to change up the way that you play. Now for me, I would really like to see such a thing happening in the near future for Battlefield. But yeah, that was basically the video for today. If you enjoyed it, then please hit like, and if you have your own thoughts about this, then feel free to leave them in the comments. And also, don't be afraid to subscribe. I really like it if you subscribe. But yeah, this was Iper, and as always, thanks for watching.